Noob School. All right, welcome back to Noob School. John Sterling here. Today I've got a friend, Dr. Rebecca Heiss. Rebecca and I met, I think, how many years ago?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. That's the first question. I can't answer it.
I was going to say
like
six.
7?
Seven.
Oh, we're
okay,
close.
6 or
All right.
7. That's good. So, yeah, we met 6 or 7 years ago, and she cold called me over and over again, wanting me to look at some new app she had. And at the time, I was like, no, I have no interest in an angel investment. I don't want to give free advice. I'm just too busy with what I'm doing, so no. But I would just politely ignore, I think. I don't think I ever said no. So I figured she would go away like most people. And then all of a sudden, my brother calls me, my brother Dan Sterling, and he goes, hey, do me a favor. I'm like, what? He goes, talk to this girl. I'm like, who? And he goes, her name's Rebecca something. Call her, talk to her. I'm like, why should I talk to her? He goes, just talk to her, So I'm like, all right, there must be some reason I got to talk to Rebecca. But then I ignored that also because he couldn't give me a good reason. So she had gotten through to my brother. And then she called me again and said, it was either a text, I think it was a text because you got my number from Dan, and said, hey, I'm going to be around downtown all next week. I can come by any day and bring whatever coffee you want and spend 10 minutes with you. At that point, after all that work, who could say no? I couldn't say no. And sure enough, there you were with the coffee, and we talked about your application you were working on at the time. And just from a sales perspective, as a longtime sales manager, I love a good salesperson. I really didn't want to talk about the app, but I couldn't wait to meet you. So that was a good meeting.
Well, I appreciate that. It's funny because I'd actually forgotten that's how we met.
Yeah.
I love that you think that I'm a good salesperson because the first thing that I tell anybody is I'm terrible at sales. I hate sales. Let's start there.
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need?
Yeah.
And I'd completely forgotten that. But I will say, my dad, as a little kid, named me Skeeter, as in mosquito, because I was annoying and persistent.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that served me well in this case.
Well, it did. And I think it's a great example for the people watching the show is, you cannot give up too easily. If you have someone who's high on your target list, if you have a top 100 prospects or people you want to maybe invest in your company or maybe hire you or whatever, buy your product, you can't give up until they call a restraining order on you.
It's true.
Or at least tell you hell no,
Yeah.
right? But just to ignore you haven't found out the answer yet.
That's right. I just figured you're busy.
That's
Everybody's
exactly
busy.
right. That's
Everybody's
exactly
busy.
right.
I ignore 90% of the things that come into me.
Right,
But
right.
if you hit me again and again, and please don't do this, but if you continue to hit me and hit me and hit me, and then you're like, listen, I'm going to bring you something you want.
Yeah.
I got 10 minutes to shoot, to
Sure.
shoot the breeze. Let's go.
Yeah.
Get a free cup of coffee if nothing else.
Right, and with that kind of person, you never know what else might be coming with it. Like you and I,
That's it.
we didn't do I don't think I helped you at all on your application. I do want to talk about that, but we became friends, and we would meet from time to time and just brainstorm what the crazy stuff we were working on.
And that's just it. Like, you may not get the answer you're looking for,
Yeah.
but you're going to get another answer.
Right.
And I learned things about you that I'm like, oh, this is interesting. We can come back to that. Let's return to that in another meeting.
Right.
Because if you're a one and done kind of person, oh, you don't have what I need right now.
Right. It's not good.
You're going to burn a lot of bridges really
Right,
quick.
and there's there's almost always something there where you can connect and help each other.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
one of the things when we would meet for breakfast, as I recall,
Yeah.
was we were going to write a book, and we both wrote a book.
That's right.
So mine's right here. but
Take that off.
Hers is called Fearless.
Instinct.
Instinct.
Instinct,
Your company's
yeah.
called Fearless.
Yep.
And tell us about the book.
Yeah, so the book actually traces my background, which is evolutionary biology and stress physiology, and I look at the 7 instincts that really served us as humans back when our brains were evolving, so like ancestral times, and today actually hold us back from achieving and living our most successful lives. So things like fear of people that look different or act different, like that's completely natural. Completely natural. I'm not saying we should, but it's natural. Biologically, somebody who looked different from you was coming from an outside tribe, probably there to kill you, steal all your resources. So today, when we have stress responses to people that think different, look different, act different, natural, but not helpful. So then I give some tips and ideas of like how we can begin to overcome this and reshape our brains. So that's what the book is about.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well,
And like, for sales, it's terrifying to be rejected.
right.
Like you get kicked out of the tribe, you die.
Yeah.
So every sales call you make, like you might have this pitter patter, oh my gosh, stress response, I'm gonna kick it. What's the worst thing that happens? Somebody
Right.
says no, which is a good response.
Yeah.
In my book, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
what else can we do?
Yeah.
But it's completely natural to have those responses. So getting past the fear of something is wrong with me, no, that's your biology.
Right.
Move on from there. What can I do to override it?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And it would be, it's easy to be logical when we're just talking about it, but being a salesperson is terrifying sometimes. But logically, it would
Sure
be
is.
very unusual and impossible if all the people you called on bought something. It just doesn't work that way.
I mean, wouldn't that be nice?
It would be very nice.
We
yeah.
probably wouldn't exist as salespeople at that point because everybody could do it, right?
That's right.
Just-
It's ordered on Amazon.
there you go.
Everything.
Done.
Well, and then just one more thing about what you're doing now. You're primarily you're a Ph.D. in this. It's some kind of psychology.
Stress physiology.
Stress physiology.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you're a PhD in that. Which is that a subset of psychology?
It's a subset of biology. And
Biology.
so I have. All right, let's direct to camera.
Get
I'm
it
a
out of the way.
nerd.
Get it
I'm
out
a
of the way.
nerd. I didn't know what to do with my life, so I just kept collecting degrees. So I have a degree in ornithology, bird nerd, evolution and human behavior. So that's a sort of evolutionary psychology. And then my PhD is actually in stress physiology, which is understanding the hormones and the behaviors that we have when we're under stress.
Okay.
Which is pretty good job security these days. When
Yeah,
everybody's
sure.
feeling the stress.
So you said you're a bird nerd? You studied birds?
I have a master's degree in ornithology, 10 years studying crows.
Crows.
Fun fact. Yeah.
Okay, and so a crow, I understand. I have a limited bird knowledge, but like some of the smartest birds out there.
Absolutely. Their brain to body mass ratio is as high as ours.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If they grow opposable thumbs, look out. Like this is AI in the making. Forget
So
AI. This is
When
crows
they're
are
in
for
the
real.
trees and they see a certain car or something going on, and they make the sounds to each other, that's some kind of vocabulary.
Yeah, so actually I'll tell you a fun story. So I used to band birds, right? I used to
Okay.
band all of these crows, so we knew them all as individuals. And they actually recognize human faces. So I would have to wear a mask when I was banding them. So when I was the bad guy, I was this, and then I was the good guy the rest of the time. So they would follow my car because I'd throw them peanuts. And so they learned very, very well. So we had a call come into the lab where I was working, and I thought it was a prank.
Yeah.
Right, like this is Steve from the National Security Defense.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Steve. And it turns out it was Pentagon level person calling and looking at the research that says crows recognize human faces. Well, how accurate are they? Because crows live everywhere. And you're not looking for you might be looking for drones. You're not looking for crows. And if they can identify, say, a terrorist in a large market, for example, and they can wear a camera pack, which they can. So now, of course, the joke is every time I see a crow, I'm like, they're watching.
Yeah.
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 But, fun stuff.
Wow.
You never know where your worlds will intersect.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. So before we get too deep, let's back up to the beginning. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in a really small town in upstate New York called Norwich, New York.
Home
it
of
was
Norwich Academy.
No.
No? No?
No, that would be great. That would be great.
Where's Norwich Academy?
I think it's in Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Norwich is we graduated 100 people.
Okay.
It's tiny.
Okay.
But it was a great place to grow up. I had a tight-knit group of friends. I played basketball. I was the kid who I think I should have recognized earlier on that I was always going to be an entrepreneur because my sister was checking out things like Little Women and all of these classics from the library, and I'm always playing the 100 ideas better than a lemonade stand. I was always curious about, okay, what problem can I solve? How can I better my world?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cool. And then where'd you go to college?
Binghamton University. So I went to a state school,
Okay.
did my undergrad there, stayed and did my first master's degree there. went and did work at Cornell, and then ended up at University of Memphis for my Ph.D.
Okay. And where'd you get the master's in ornithology?
At Binghamton University.
Did they call you any names like Bird Lady or
Oh,
anything?
yeah, I'm Crow Girl, you know, like, of course, the Bird Lady, yeah. Especially, you know, when you're driving through downtown and you've got a mob full of crows, like, coming at you. It's hard to miss those nicknames, but.
That's great. When did we get you in Greenville, and how did you end up here?
Yeah, so I after my PhD, I went to Hartsville, of all places, Hartsville, South Carolina, to teach at the Governor's School for Science and Math.
Nice.
It was a very last-minute decision. I actually had a postdoc at Cambridge, and like a week after I graduated, some family things came up. My grandmother was ill. I didn't want to be overseas. And so I took this position, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved teaching. I loved the students. I loved their curiosity. So I kind of fell in love with that. And about 5 years into that position, I was recruited to Greenville to open Next High School.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
all
I was
right.
the founders of Next High School, which
Okay.
is, for those of you that don't know, it's one of these innovative charter schools that
Yeah.
focused on impact-based learning.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was a science person.
Huh.
Yeah.
And who recruited you?
Zach Eikenberry.
Zach Eikenberry.
Yep.
So he was okay.
He sold me so fast. It was. I mean, you want to talk about a salesperson? Holy
He's good.
smokes. He's good.
I've met Zach, and that's great. My nephew went there. Daniel.
Oh yeah,
Daniel
I remember
Sterling.
Dan.
Remember
It
Daniel?
was the first year.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was a rascal then. He's a rascal now.
Well, I feel like we need to give more places for rascalness.
I
You know,
agree.
we
I
really
agree.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So you know Daniel.
I do. Gosh, I haven't thought about. All I can picture is this, like, I don't know, 14-year-old kid. I'm sure. What is he
Yeah.
now? He's got to be in his 20s.
He's in his early 20s,
Oh, my
and he's become a CrossFit superstar. He's in the top 80 in the world.
Holy smokes!
In the world.
That's incredible.
He goes to all these competitions and stuff. So
Wow.
I'll show you some videos when
That's
we're
wild.
finished. Yeah, he's doing well. All because of you.
I mean, I'm gonna take credit for that. Why not? Like, why not? You give a kid an opportunity to explore their interests, and look what happens.
That's right. You said, do some push-ups, boy.
All right, I love it.
You came here because of Next,
Yeah.
which was a real kind of adventure move.
It was. I loved the position I was in, and I was still really young. You know, I was in my 20s, and I was like, man, I could live and die here. I could retire at this, and I was like, I just don't think I'm there.
Yeah.
So when this opportunity arose, and the funny thing is, as a graduate student, I remember coming through Greenville and just like doing a little swivel look, and I was like, I'm gonna live here one day. And when that opportunity arose, I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, big jump.
And so how long did you stay there?
I was just there the first year.
First year.
Yeah,
The
I
important
was just-
year.
The building year.
Yeah. And did you immediately start on Acuity after that?
I didn't. I blew up my life.
Okay.
So unfortunately, my sister-in-law, who had been a sister to me for 20 years at that point, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I had this moment where, you know, everybody has the rug pulled out from them. And I took a look at my life, and I was like, man, if this had been my diagnosis, I'd be really disappointed with the life that I'd led. You know, I'd played it mostly safe, and I was looking at my career at Next, and it was fun. But I was like, I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm not really learning much more anymore.
Yeah.
What do I want to do?
Yeah.
So I quit my job, sold my house, and divorced my husband that month.
Wow.
Not the takeaway for most people, right? Like,
Yeah.
but recognizing that I'd been making decisions out of fear, I really wanted to clean slate and say, okay, if I'm actually living for me, if I'm not scared, what do I do? And I'd always loved the theater. I'd loved to be on stage, and I loved science, and I loved helping people, and I loved teaching. And I was like, maybe I can make a career out of this. So I started writing a book.
Yep.
I started speaking at Vistage groups,
Yeah.
which are these CEO
Yep.
coaching organizations. And I started learning because I'm surrounded by all of these CEOs. They're
Right.
doing well, and they're teaching me as much as I'm offering anything to them. And that's when I started developing Acuity, because I realized one of the biggest things that people are missing is self-awareness. I was like, man, I'm sure I'm missing self-awareness too. Like, I would really like to know, honestly, some feedback. So that's when I started developing that. And then I gave a TEDx in Greenville, and that's really when I made the shift to full-time speaking.
Okay. And that's what we're doing now. It's full-time speaking.
Full-time.
Companies, nonprofits, cities.
Companies, nonprofits, associations.
Okay.
It's keeping me busy.
That's awesome. I've been giving you a hard time for the last year, as I've been trying to get you booked on the podcast.
I know.
Every time she canceled, I would say, you just must be nervous.
Oh,
about being on camera.
You know what? That's it.
You're on speed. Here's
what I'll say.
Yeah.
I ask people every single time I give a speech, I ask people what their number one fear is. And inevitably public speaking comes up, or like being in front of a camera, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. I do. Every time I go in front of a camera, every time I go on stage, I get butterflies too. And to me, that's a good thing. When I stop getting that, I stop caring. So all of the research that we've seen, I'm going to turn into a nerd for a second, shows that the number one correlate to a purposeful, meaningful life is stress. And that blows my mind. So it's past stressful events, current state of stress, and even future anxiety is what drives meaning and purpose. So that's a reminder to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm doing something meaningful now.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you think about, some of the people that we know that maybe let's just say they're trust fund kids or something.
Yeah.
And they're just, for the most part, I've never seen a happy one.
That's right. Right.
They're just kind of like, every day's the same. And
that's really, so when you look at the performance curve, so if you have performance on the y-axis and stress on the x-axis, what you see is really low performance with really low stress. It's your trust fund babies, right? Classic. And generally unhappy. Yeah. So increasing to a point, and then you start to see this rapid drop off. And that's what I'm most interested in, because most people are like, oh, I'm so stressed. Sales is a really stressful job. Yeah. And if you're having this decline in performance because you're stressed, that's a problem. But I don't think we have to have that. Yeah. And here's why. When Olympic athletes break world records, they do so at the highest levels of pressure, right? So there's this shift in mindset that occurs for what I call adventure mindset, that occurs for Olympic athletes to say, oh, this is an adventure. I've trained for this. I'm excited. That heart pumping, that's just bringing more blood to my muscles. It's transforming the stress into something that's useful. Right. I call it aligning the butterflies, right? I still have them, but now they're working for me, not just scattering me.
Right. To be more alert or more...
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
More in the moment.
Yeah. Now, I haven't done near as much public speaking as you, but I did go to Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they did such a good job. It was like a 2-day deal. And what I remember was they said, most important thing is that the audience feels like that you're comfortable and happy up there and just having a good time. You can screw up. You can forget your lines. The thing cannot work. Yeah. As long as you're cool.
That's it.
Everything's fine.
By the way, they're all cheering for you.
Yes.
Right? Nobody wants a bad speaker.
That's right.
Right? They're like, please be good. You got this. You got this.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah. How did your actually the last time I think we sat down proper was writing your speech for your daughter's wedding.
It went great.
Is that right?
Yes, it went great.
Good.
It went great.
That's a high pressure situation.
It was, and but it went very well, and it was kind of weird though, because you're just it's a big deal, and you're just sitting around talking, a couple hundred people and talking, and all of a sudden the guy comes and gets you and goes, "We need you now," and you're like, boom, microphone, and the band's all looking at you, and you're like, you got to go now. But luckily, we had enough of a theme that it worked fine.
That's good.
And she was easy to talk about.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this most scared I think I've ever seen a group of professional speakers. Yeah. This was hilarious. My speaking coach got married this past year, and he asked 5 of us, all of his coachees, to speak at his wedding, to give a little toast. Yep. And we were all seated at a table together, and man, I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm not having a drink. Are you having I'm not having a drink. Yeah. Everybody was so nervous. Yeah. But again, it's like, this is meaningful.
Right, because it was that coach. Yeah.
That's it.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, I missed one thing. So when Zach Eichenberry recruited you to come to Next, and you said he was a good salesperson, what made him good?
That's a great question. What made him good? He was curious. I remember him being really curious about me. Yeah. Right? And what I was looking to build.
Right.
And so, listen, it's my favorite thing to talk about is myself,
Sure.
as is everybody else's favorite topic.
true.
So the more I got to say, oh yeah, I'm really excited about, this curriculum and how we could, the more I envisioned myself creating it.
Yeah.
And the easier it was for him to say, all right, so what do you need? What do you need from me to make this move? And I was like, oh.
Look what I've done.
I've already just like, I just
yeah.
like, wait, now I have to decide. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an easy conversation.
Yeah.
And I think part of it too was that he was so him.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Relaxed.
it wasn't a coat and tie.
Yeah.
This is probably the biggest
I am
thing
the
I've
headmaster
Yes,
of the
yes,
next school.
Exactly. Like that's not going to work for me.
Right.
It
It would have been over right then.
It would have
Immediately.
been. It would have been. And
Yeah.
even, I know I have tried that tactic before. I've tried to go in to CEOs in my suit. It
Yeah.
don't work.
Right.
Because I'm not me.
Right.
And if I'm not me, I can't sell me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We coach people on that too, like what to dress, like whatever you normally wear.
Right.
That's
huge.
just go and be yourself. And if yourself is a good match for this, then that's good.
That's it.
If not, we can't fake it. That's excellent. So we coach people to do exactly what Zach did, which is to first of all be himself, to be disarming, and to immediately put all the focus on you, the prospect, and honestly and curiously ask, what's good in your world? What are you looking for?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it might not be what we have.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it,
Yeah.
right? Like I think being willing to go, oh, I may not be a good fit for this.
Right.
That's one of the approaches that I think actually makes people want me more when I sell my service.
Yeah.
Which I would like to come back to that because selling you as a person versus a product,
Yeah.
very different things.
Right.
But one of the things that I learned is sometimes when I identify that I may not be a good fit, and I'm genuinely like, I don't think I'm the right speaker for this. You might want to look at X, Y, and Z. They're like, no, I think you might be the right speaker. And that was so counterintuitive to me because the more I tried to convince them, actually, this is what I talk about and this is what you're asking for.
Yeah.
They started to say, no, I think what we want is. I was like, oh.
Try to match you.
Interesting, yeah. So showing up as you is
people,
helpful.
and you know this from all your studies, your psychology studies and others, is when somebody pushes you, you want to push back naturally.
That's right.
And when you say no, you just want to, no, let me help you.
Yeah.
People try to help.
Here we are.
And here we are, and it's just so true. I mean, if you were to say, you need Rebecca, and let me tell you why. Because I do this and this and this, and your salespeople need that, and so on and so on. They'll say, well, that's all well and good, but we're talking to these other people. They're pretty good too.
That's it.
Versus like, no, Rebecca, we think you probably would be a good fit. So anyway.
Yeah.
I had a guy one time that I called this company that had just sold their company for $1 zillion, and I called the owner and just cold called him and said, listen, congratulations, I'm in the same business as you. We're much smaller. Can you give me like one or two things y'all did to be so successful? Kind of an idiot's question, but I was an idiot, so I asked it anyway.
I think it's brilliant to ask those questions.
And so the son of a gun, he said, well, why don't we meet? I'll be in Atlanta in 2 weeks.
Wow.
He was from Texas. He goes, if you come to Atlanta, I'll take you to lunch and we'll talk about it. It's very kind of him to do that. But what he said was, we hired this one guy, this consultant, once a year to come look at our business and kind of keep us on the right path.
Yep.
He was very, very good at kind of the positioning of companies. So anyway, so I called that guy. And I said, yeah, Al, so-and-so told me about you, and we'd love to have you do the same thing for our business. We'd like to do what they did. And he goes, okay, no problem. He goes, it's $10,000 a day and plus expenses and so-and-so and so-and-so. I said, okay, fine. But let me ask you a few questions about what you do. And I started to grill him a little bit. And he said, well, okay, did you talk to the other guy? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, that's what I do. I don't, So you kind of politely just said, I'm not going to answer all your damn questions.
Yeah.
Do you want it or don't you?
Yeah.
And we did, and he was the best thing we ever did.
Isn't
hiring
that
guy. But his sales tactic was just so nicely take it or leave it.
I think, and this is sort of from evolutionary origins. We have this need to prove ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend so much time and energy proving ourselves. Like, no, I'm the best. Our product is the best. There's nothing else out there like it.
Right.
Don't worry about it.
Right.
Trust me.
Right.
Instead of saying, no, here's what we offer.
Right. Yeah.
And shutting up.
Yeah.
Which is, it's so hard. And I'll tell you the lesson that I learned on product versus self is I know that I'm the best representative to sell myself, to sell my services. And I resisted that for so long. I just wanted somebody else to do it because I like I said, I hate sales. I'm not good at sales. But what I realized is it's because I wasn't fully confident in me. It's easy to have a product and like, I believe in this book. I believe in this process. I know this is going to work for you, and hand it to somebody.
Yeah.
It's another thing to say, I have something to offer. I have something to offer. I have a service that I know is valuable. Me.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to make that switch and go, okay, wait. Somebody is willing to pay this.
Yeah.
Therefore, and repeatedly, therefore, maybe, Rebecca, the story that you need to tell yourself needs to change. And once I changed that, like, sales became a lot easier.
And was that story verified because you've had so much success with the speaking?
I mean, I think they go hand in hand. I think it's a chicken egg thing.
Yeah.
But it was a story that I was telling, which is like, who are you to say? Who are you to give advice?
Right.
And I'm like, well, actually,
Got a
degrees.
PhD,
Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty good at distilling science and telling a story in a way that is useful, that people can apply it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a skill.
Yeah.
Oh, I have that skill.
All right.
Okay, maybe this is a value that I bring.
Yeah.
And telling that story, I mean, stories, I do a lot of work on the power of storytelling. And you want to increase your sales by 37%? Tell yourself that you're a good salesperson. That's it.
Yeah.
Period. End of discussion. 37% increase with that affirmation.
Yeah.
And that sounds so like woo woo and out there. And like, try it because we have science that backs it.
Yeah, I mean,
wild.
I agree. Do you coach or talk on like the morning affirmations?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I'm a big proponent of morning affirmations, and again, I have to be very careful to couch it in a way that people will accept it because it does feel like a little out there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me show you the science.
Yeah.
Let me walk you through like three different studies. And then let me ask you this. What happens when you screw up? What do you say? What do you say to yourself? Like, I'm an idiot. I should like, so you actually believe in self-talk because you're doing it all the time. What you haven't tried is actually the opposite of that.
Right.
And, if anybody is old enough as I am to remember the SNL character, right? The I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, like, and gosh darn it.
Is that Jack Handy?
Yeah. Stuart Smalley.
Stuart Smalley?
Yeah.
Stuart Smalley.
Anyway, there's something to it.
Yeah.
One of the big tricks, and I'll just give this quick tip, is saying I'm good enough, I'm smart enough. That actually could work in reverse because if you don't believe it, you're lying to yourself and it doesn't work well. So the small shift there is to say, Rebecca talks about yourself in the third person. You are good enough. And what that does to the brain is it creates emotional distancing. So now I'm hearing John might be telling me, Rebecca, you're good enough, even though I'm saying it. And it sounds so corny, but that slight shift makes a huge difference in our willingness to accept the story.
You're telling yourself.
That's right.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I talk about the affirmations a lot with the Noob School folks. The one I've been using for the last couple years is I can handle this in the morning. So I say that a couple of times just when I'm brushing my teeth.
Love
then I swear something will pop up and something will happen, and all of a sudden the first thing I think is I can handle this.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh no.
I'm so overwhelmed. What do I do?
It's just, no, I can handle this.
Yeah.
Let's just put it down on papers, figure it out. It's called Rebecca. She'll figure it out.
Don't delegate to me.
But also, I've learned this, firsthand. I was just telling you before we started filming, is on the way back from Charleston today.
Yeah.
You see those billboards for sausage and egg biscuits. You see them enough times, you eventually got to stop.
Your resistance
You
just
just
gets worn down. It's
and there's
so true.
I didn't have anybody with me, so who's watching?
Well, it's me calling you the eighth time. The eighth time, you're like, fine, I'm just gonna have the biscuit.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. So my point is, those affirmations work.
Yeah.
That's why people pay to have stuff on billboards or on advertising. It gets in your brain. And if we don't on purpose put the positive things in our brain, all we get's the negative.
That's it. That's it, because that's what helped us to survive.
Yeah.
Right? And so our brain naturally has these automatic negative thoughts. We call them ants, right?
Like
Ants.
the dinosaur might be coming.
It's the tiger. The
tiger.
tiger's going to eat me.
Yeah.
Like when you have that overwhelm,
Yeah.
what people do is they go into a stress response,
Mm-hmm.
right? We only have one response to stress, and it's
Yeah.
like to fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
That's not helpful if you're going to hit reply all, you're going to type a testy email. In today's environment, those aren't useful responses.
Right.
So one of the tricks that I offer people is allow yourself 3 minutes. Set a timer for 3 minutes, because our stress response is literally built for 3 minutes of screaming terror across the savannah, right?
Okay.
So scream.
Yeah.
Scream. Outrun the tiger. Go ahead and stress out of your gourd about that thing that is just going to be awful. Then you take those 2 breaths and you go, I can handle this. Right? And
Yeah.
the third step is just getting curious.
Yeah.
So what's the smallest step I can take to move forward?
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
a 3, 2, 1. Real simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to a guy who has been working with entrepreneurs, business people for decades in Greenville. And we're talking about this subject of like working through problems. And he goes, I've seen so many problems people have had over the years, but I've never seen one time when the person just got up every morning and tried to, what is the next thing I can do? And they always worked through it. It might not be like it was before, but they kind of work through it and everything's rolling again.
Yep.
But some of the people, quit or freak out or,
Yeah. So we call that the winner cycle.
Okay.
So one of the things in biology, and again, usually we see this with like 2 fighting, deer, right? And the one male that wins has this surge in testosterone, a decrease in cortisol, your main stress hormone. And so they're more likely, their hormones actually support them winning the next engagement.
Yeah.
And so what we can do to work with our biology rather than against it is set these really small goals. So the story that I tell is a friend of mine medically needed to lose about 150 pounds. And he did it. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, like, John, how'd you lose 150 pounds? He's like, I didn't. I lost 1 pound 150 times. And that distinction is so simple, but it's missed by so many people. It's like, big overwhelming dinosaur, can't handle it, gonna stress out and get nowhere. Eating the elephant. What's the smallest thing I can do to get that momentum working for me and start that flywheel?
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you about sales training. Have you had any formal training? No?
I have had the school of hard knocks. I have done everything wrong. I can tell you how not to do sales.
How do you not do it?
Anonymously send out an email to 5,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a target, don't you?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. And even if the bots don't catch you, it's just awful. I mean,
I've done it before. It feels bad.
it feels bad, and honestly, it feels bad to receive it too. Like I get those now, and I'm like,
Yeah.
let me respond and teach you something.
Yeah.
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 I get that it's a numbers game to some degree.
Yeah.
I get it. But man, those personal relationships, those small personalizations make a huge difference.
Yeah. I was listening to Sam Altman, the ChatGPT guy, the other day, and I was just fascinated. I thought it was going to be some talk about, ChatGPT. His advice was on how to start a business, and he was saying, start with one customer.
Yep.
And literally, and you want them near you, and you want to be able to go and hang out with them every day or once a week, and how they're using it. Because the last thing you want is too many customers, because you can't figure out how they're using it.
Because everybody's saying something different, and you're missing.
Get one, and then get a second one, and the third one, and it goes. Once you finally figure out what this thing ought to look like to make the customers happy, then you can roll.
You've adapted it 16,000 different ways, and
Yeah.
now you want to reach out to the 5,000
Right.
instead of reaching out to the 5,000 and then 4,999 of them going,
Right.
this isn't quite right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would add to the list of things not to do, which is kind of sales 101, but people miss it a lot, is they start the presentation talking about what they do.
That's it.
I'm a speaker and I'm a this and I got a Ph.D. and I know a lot more about crows than you do and all that stuff. And the people are just sitting there going, going to sleep or hating you.
Right.
Because I
can't relate to you.
What about me?
Yeah.
I asked you to come here to solve my problem.
Yeah.
And I've had people come in before and do both. And one guy came in, we needed to hire some developers quickly. And all the rest of them, I had 5 people come in a row, that little office where we met. Mm-hmm. And the first 4 said, well, thanks for meeting with me. We're so-and-so company. We've been in business 22 years. And I was just like, no. It's just no.
Yeah,
And the next guy comes in, and he goes, hey, John. He goes, tell me what's going on.
Isn't that like a breath of fresh air? Wait, what?
I get to talk?
What?
He goes, tell me what's going on. How long has that been happening? Have you tried to fix it? He just asked me, and then we got to the end. Instead of telling me anything, he just said, "I'll be able to help you with that." That's all I need to know.
What a great sales process.
I don't want any more details.
That's it.
And we used him for years. He was great.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's make it about them, right?
Yeah,
Make it about them. How do I solve the problem that you are having? I need to know your problem first.
Yeah.
I need to hear it from your mouth so that I can mimic those words back to
Now,
you.
in your case, haven't they already seen you on stage, like in video or something?
So sometimes, and,
Okay.
and one of the things that I do is, the speaking industry is a weird one, right? Because sometimes they've seen me, sometimes they've seen YouTube clips of me, sometimes they've just heard word of mouth. And so what I'll do is I'll ask if an agency is bringing a client to me. I'll say, tell me about specifically what their problem is that they're trying to solve. And I will go on their website, I'll read about them, I'll try and find some language that they're using, and then I'll create a custom video for them before they ever meet with me.
Nice.
Right? And I load up a landing page. It's a 2-minute video. It takes me 2 minutes to get on and say, hey, I'm Rebecca Heiss. I learned about you on your website. I spent some time digging around. I love that, your company is dedicated to this mission. I'm really curious to know more about this problem that I hear you're having, blah, 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 blah. And I ask a bunch of questions in the video. And then I say, well, here's just a little bit about me. And I can't wait to get on the phone with you and talk more and learn how I can make your event really impactful.
Perfect. They love that.
End of discussion. And that little touch is like, she cares about us. She cared enough to go on our website, to do a little bit of research. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, it takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But it means the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're just putting yourself ahead of your competition.
It's that small edge.
Yeah.
It's that small
I love
edge.
it.
Yeah.
What social media works best for your business?
Oh, the bane of my existence. Okay, so I would love to say that I love social media and I'm fantastic at it, and I'm not.
Okay.
It's like sales for me. It's a necessary part of what I do, and I'm working on it. I use a lot of Instagram because I can just make short clips that I can then post to Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all of that. But my main sales channel is LinkedIn.
Still LinkedIn.
Still LinkedIn. Still the best for me.
Yeah.
And I repurpose content from all of it. But
So is that because you have the most followers there or because it's LinkedIn?
it's an excellent question because I don't know which is driving it. I do have the most followers there. And it's LinkedIn. It's where business happens still.
Yeah. I'm the same way. We put it on everything. But LinkedIn's where I get most of my business from.
I mean, I think that's where, at least in my case, I have a lot of individuals that are interested in what I do.
Yeah.
And I would say probably Instagram is where I get people for my masterclass because it's individuals looking to solve a problem for themselves.
Okay.
And for companies, for associations that are looking to solve for the company, it's LinkedIn.
And tell me a little bit about, I know you have the book instinct and you have your speaking engagements. What about the master class? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my master class, I'm partnering with Furman University, so I'm really excited.
Okay.
I have offered the master class and given it, to companies in Europe and India, all across North America. It's the first time I've actually had a community that is my own, so I'm really excited about doing it here in Greenville. The master class is a way for us to identify who we are and what stops us from being our most successful self, and kind of bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be. So it identifies 6 chapters. We go through 6 chapters, including identity, who we are, how we show up in the world.
6 chapters of your book?
No, these are completely separate.
Okay.
They're just kind of 6 different sections of the master class.
Okay.
Who we are, how we show up in the world. We do enneagrams. The second chapter is in stress and anxiety and time management. Huge issues for leaders on those fronts. The third chapter is on fear of rejection and fear of failure. The fourth is on confidence and imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, I could talk for days about imposter syndrome. It's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And actually it's important for sales too. We can come back to it. The 5th chapter is on boundary setting. And then the final chapter is on manifesting for skeptics and scientists.
Ooh.
So yeah, it's a really fun course.
How long does it take?
That's a good question. So I offer the content for a lifetime because I want everybody to be able to go through it at their own pace. Typically, my recommendation is 6 months. You'll have 2 modules every week. It's a 52 modules. So you could do 1 every week for a year.
Okay.
I think a 2 a week is a nice pace.
Are you with them when they're doing this?
So you can take it multiple different ways,
Okay.
right? There's a coaching package, so I can do once a week coaching along with it.
Okay.
Or you can do it in a cohort, which is really fun for teams because you're experiencing it
I'm going to
together.
have to copy this.
Yeah, man. I'll give you all the material. By the way, this is the best thing, I think, is this is how I've grown, is you're sharing material. You're like, oh, this is the best way that this works.
Yeah.
Take it, use it.
I've got a weekly, I do my engagements with customers, with businesses, but I've got a weekly web sales class where it's just open to the public, and that's the most fun hour of my week. Yeah.
Right?
We just have the best time. And I learn every time because these are young people when they have different problems, and,
Yeah.
it's good. So let's talk about imposter syndrome, because I can chime in there too.
Okay. First of all, can I talk about the fact that I hate that it's called a syndrome? I really do.
What should it be called?
Well, I don't know. Let me think on that.
Okay.
There's some marketing, I think, to be done. It needs a better PR agent.
Syndrome.
Yeah, because then it's you own it. There's something
Yeah.
wrong with you.
Like I caught something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reality is, everybody has feeling. If you're a human that is not a full narcissist, everybody has some feeling of like, I don't belong here, or I'm not enough, or and often what's going on is there have been unwritten rules in place that the culture has produced over years. So the easy example for me as a woman in business is a lot of women CEOs are like, I don't belong here, I didn't earn this. And it's like, well, look at the top 10 leadership books over the last 10 years. And they're all written, no offense, but by old white men. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot of good things that we're doing. And it doesn't mean that those rules necessarily that have always worked are going to continue to always work. So just because you feel out of place doesn't mean necessarily that you are. It's just write a new set of rules so that you do fit. Because those rules are going to work for another generation, another set of gender, race, identity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's my small soapbox on imposter syndrome. It's like, don't call it a syndrome. Rewrite the rules.
Yeah.
Sit in the land of ambiguity. What a great gift to be the non-expert in the room, right? Because you're going to ask the dumb questions, and those dumb questions often lead to really exciting solutions that nobody else has been willing to ask because they were all like, I don't belong, I don't fit, this is going to be a dumb question. Good.
Yeah.
Ask it because nobody else is.
Yeah. They're all smarter than I am.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, well, I think everyone suffers from it. I heard Tony Robbins the other day talking just recently about imposter syndrome, and he was saying that he has those feelings sometimes. And the guy was like, "You have them?"
Yeah.
And he's like, he goes, "Well, I don't have him for long.
Yeah.
Because with all of his tricks and stuff,
Yeah.
he's like, I just remind myself quickly of what I've done. I mean, I've coached every president in the last 10,
That's right.
20 years. So, and that's one of the tricks, I think, is to remind yourself of the reason you shouldn't be an imposter.
Yeah.
But there's some cases where you are an imposter. Like I put myself in situations with my personality, I'm much more likely to try and show up than do my homework. So I do show up as the imposter sometimes. It feels horrible.
You know what? But I think it's not a syndrome then. That's you taking yourself out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's you stretching yourself and being like, I didn't do my homework, let's see what happens.
I have no idea.
But you're there to learn.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to I don't belong here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big shift. Yet what you said about, even Tony Robbins having this, I think I agree. These are thoughts just like stress that they come in and you can kind of watch it. Mm-hmm. And as long as you're the observer of that thought and you're not buying into it, you're like, oh, there's a cloud, let it pass through.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big shift.
Right. Yeah. Or just to do it anyway.
Just do it anyway.
I heard it. I heard that little thing up there,
Yeah.
those synapses talking, and I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going in that door right there.
Okay, you want to think that I'm really
And another
weird?
thing I'll say to people, and that this in my life is proven true, if you don't want to suffer so much from that, whatever you want to call it, imposter something,
Yeah.
is try to put yourself in situations where you are the expert. Like when I have spent my life, most of my business life in a software business.
Right.
And then after that, some more software business, technology and stuff like that. And when I finally shifted to sales, which is what I was doing within the technology world, only now do I not really feel like an imposter. Because someone in any of those situations
so
for the last
interesting.
3 decades, they could say, well, what was the transition in the technology? But I'm like, I'd have to look over here and say, well, Charlie can probably answer that better than me. Or I could answer it, but let's let Charlie answer it. I mean, I didn't know.
But see, that's so interesting. You spent 3 decades doing this.
I know.
And you're like, that's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
So I guess to me, what the big takeaway I have is just because you're in it for a long time
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're the expert, and just because you're the newbie doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're not
Right.
the expert.
Right.
So that's an interesting one.
But I'm in an area now where I never feel like an imposter. I can walk into any business and feel like I know how to evaluate what your situation is.
So that's interesting. Can I ask a question to you?
Sure, of course.
So how do you stay curious enough, even when you're the expert walking into a room? How do you stay curious enough to continue to grow and learn in that space?
I like it. And I
Okay,
like it, and
yeah.
I feel like it's my profession, and so every day I'm following different sales gurus and trying to keep learning, and then it's not like I can walk in any business and know I can't, but most of the time I'll be able to get at least 80%.
Yeah.
And be able to tell them some stuff that'll make their revenue grow.
So see, all right, I'm going to push back. I think you are confident and competent, but you have the humility to say, I need to keep growing. I need to keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
You have the hunger. And I think maybe that's why my own holdup of experts. I see experts as I got it all.
Yeah.
I'm good. Don't need to learn anymore.
Well, I think, that in this field and probably in most fields, it's changing.
That's it.
It's changing all the time, and just sitting here talking to you, I'm learning stuff. But it's fun to keep learning, and no matter what you're doing.
It is.
So let me ask you some really important questions here.
All right. Ready for the hard stuff.
Now you can't say the Sales for Noobs book, but what's your favorite book?
My book.
Your book.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not
Besides
fair.
your book and my book.
I knew this question was coming, and I have stressed out more about this particular question because it's like asking my favorite pizza.
Mm-hmm.
I love all pizza. I love foods. Mm-hmm. I think I settled on it's a play. It's called Every Brilliant Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not a business book, but I think it has more to teach us about business and life than most books out there. So
Okay.
Every Brilliant Thing.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And then your favorite band?
Indigo Girls.
Indigo Girls.
They are classic. Listen, any band that has started They formed 40 years ago.
Wow.
And I went to a performance just here at the Peace Center a couple of weeks ago. They're still
good?
running strong. They're
Wow.
still producing music. It's still relevant. I love them.
And
love
favorite
girls.
word?
Discombobulated.
Discombobulated.
I have a whole story about it, but discombobulated was the biggest word that I knew as a third grader, and I just thought it made me the smartest human being. Discombobulated.
Well, it's funny because the word sounds discombobulated.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a fun word to say,
That's a
too.
great word.
Discombobulated.
That's a great word. What we've talked about, I think, the main stuff that you're working on, but would you like to promote anything before we close out?
Well, it wouldn't be a sales pitch if it were
That's
not.
right.
It wouldn't be a sales podcast.
That's right.
No, you know what? I don't have anything to promote.
Yeah.
You know what I do. I'm
Yeah.
a speaker. I've got a master class.
Yeah.
I would say the only thing I'd promote is if you have something that you want to learn that I can teach you, whether that's in speaking or in stress.
Yeah.
Like, reach out to me. I'm happy to have an email correspondence or a phone call and help you out. So
Good.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being here finally. Your schedule
I'm
allowed.
sorry.
And
Yeah.
we'd love to have you back. You're a great guest.
Well, thanks for your patience. It's been a delight. We have to do this more often.
You got it. Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks.
All right.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, John.